Hello, everyone, and happy Saturday evening. My name is Sharon, and I am the CEO and the founder of the Jameson Group. And I hope you can join me for maybe 5 minutes because I wanted to share with you some thoughts that I shared tonight about success. Because even though we all define success differently, we all are interested and I think desirous of being successful. We all have desires and dreams and destinies that are really, really important to us. So if you're joining me, I'm using StreamYard. So I might not be able to see your name, but I also have my phone, and this is not showing up on my phone. But very quickly, I want to share a couple of concepts that I talked about success. The first concept I talked about today was that when we talk about success, it's important to understand the water that you were raised and reared in. It is important to understand the water that you were raised in. In other words, it's important to understand your environment because what happens is that we are raised in these environments, these cultures, these customs, these communities that totally influence us and influence our dreams, influence our thoughts, influence what we think is possible for our lives. And if you are not aware and don't understand the water that you swim in, the water that you were reared in, you will not be able to identify how the isms, racism, sexism, ageism, abilityism, heterosexism, all the different isms impact how you see the world and how you see opportunities for yourself. And if we don't pressure test or interrogate our environment, we run the risk of shrinking our lives down to very slivers of our ability, our talents, and our worth. So it's important to understand the water that you swim in, the water that you were raised in, the environment that influenced you and impacted you and infected you with your dreams. Because if you grew up and swam in the water that was full of privilege, you will have bigger dreams, bigger goals. You will understand that there is nothing that you can do, right? Nothing that is beyond your ability. But if you grew up and you swam in an environment or lived or were raised in an environment of poverty, limitations, lack, inequality, oppression, white supremacy, which all the people of color have lived in, it really affects your ability to imagine what's possible for your life. So when you're talking about success, however you define success, the very first thing you need to do is to understand the water that you were raised in or reared in, to understand why you think the way you think, right? The second thing is important is to understand not only the water that you were raised in, but also understand the water that still lives inside of you, right? Because we all have inculcated and internalized and absorbed conditioning that really affects what we think about ourselves. I remember when I first got married to my ex-husband, he thought he was very progressive and he thought he was very open-minded. But when we got married, he thought I was going to stay home, cook, and clean. I'm thinking the devil is a lie, not me. But in his mind, he was progressive. But in my mind, he was trying to hold me prisoner. Why? Because he started, first we were 12 years old apart, but his model of womanhood in marriage, which the world that he lived in, still lived in him. And that was his norm. That's what his expectation for marriage was. And that's why I am divorced, right? So it's important, again, to understand the water that you were raised in. Also, too, it's important to understand the water that still lives inside of you. We all have some internalized programming that make us think small, that make us think we're not worthy, that make us think we're not qualified and justified to do the things that we have been created and desirous to do. So again, the water that lives in you. Here's the third thing. We have to understand who is swimming with us in the water. Because even though people are by your side, everybody is not on your side. And if we're not clear, if we don't screen people, if we don't vet people, if we don't assess people in our life, we will have the wrong people in our life. Because anytime we bring people in our life without some type of interrogation, without vetting them, we run the risk of having people in our life who are available but not suitable. You need people who are suitable for where you desire to go, right? You need people who have gifts that you don't have, who have resources that you need, who has wisdom that you lack. You need people to complement you, not compete with you. But if you don't know who's swimming with you, you won't be able to clearly discern between an assistant and an assassin, or a supporter or a saboteur, or a helper and a hater. You won't be able to clearly distinguish who you're swimming with. And as a result, you will invite people into your private places and give them access to you, not understanding that they're not a partner to you, but that they are a parasite. And we got to be so clear, because some people only look at you as transportation to their destination. They don't look at you as a helper, as a supporter, as a person who's worthy of respect and love and honor. They look at you as a meal ticket. And so you want to make sure that the people in your life understand that they must bring something to the relationship besides an appetite. There has to be mutuality. There has to be synergy and chemistry and synchronicity. So we need to know who we are swimming with, lest we swim next to people who are trying to drown us instead of develop us. So again, I share these three things. If you have anybody who you think might benefit from this live, please share. Again, three things. I will share it again. One, make sure you understand the water that you swim in. Make sure you understand the water, again, that you were raised in. What did you learn about you? What did you learn about success? What did you learn about possibilities? How did racism, sexism, all the different isms influence you? And how did those isms infect you with feelings of inferiority, of feelings of unworthiness? We need to understand, again, the water that reared us, the water that we swam in. Two, you need to understand the water that's swimming in you, because even though you have grown up, you have taken some of that toxic thinking with you. You have taken and inculcated some of that those poisonous paradigms. That's some crippling conditioning that makes you feel that you can't spread your wings and soar. You have taken in some of those belief systems, those stereotypes, those labels, those deadly decals that has distorted your understanding of your ability and your exceptionalism and in your competence to be who God created you to be. You have to remember it's important to be careful that you don't succumb to people's interpretations, because people's interpretations and those stereotypes are not divine mandates. And we have to understand the difference between a divine mandate and somebody else's perspective. And three, you got to understand who's swimming in the water next to you. So many of us are swimming with the sharks, and they are circling you and trying to kill you. But there are other people around you who would love to support you and cheer for you and celebrate you with you. But we have to be careful and be open-minded so that we understand that everybody does not have to be skin with us or can with us to win with us, right? There might be people who are willing to invest in you to the same level that you are willing to invest in yourself. So here's the question: are you willing to invest in yourself? So I talked about these principles. Please continue to think about your life and what you believe about you and who you are talking to, because some people will plant seeds of doubt in fear and anxiety, and they will water those seeds with continuous flow of criticism and critique that's really not helpful. So I want you to think about who's in your life. What water are you swimming in? What water swims in you, and who are you swimming with? Because if you are clear about those variables, you can ensure that you have victory and you're not victimized by the very people who are sitting next to you. Because I'm going to say it again, everybody by your side is not on your side. So I want to invite you to join me, if you will, if you can, to join me with to attend Unshackled Desires, Dreams, and Destiny, when we are going to talk about the the factors that influence how you feel about yourself and factors that affect your imagination. Because I know a lot of coaches only talk about mindset. But I don't care. You cannot think yourself happy when you're dealing with racism on a daily basis. I don't care if you do affirmations for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Those affirmations are not going to help you strategize with systemic influences that try to oppress you and suppress you. I don't care. You can have mantras all you want. Those things are important. I'm not minimizing them, but you need more if you're a person of color. If you're a person of color, you have to understand the water that you swim in so that you can strategize around all the things that are impediments to your success. Again, mindset is good, but mindset is not enough for people of color. We need to understand what is dangerous to our advancement. We need to understand what's trying to suppress our success. We need to understand what's trying to impede our ability to shine and to rise to the heights that we are destined to. So I want to encourage you to think about Unshackled, because many times the influences are unconscious, because when you've been living in a racist environment, sometimes it's hard to detect because it's natural. Hate can become so natural, even though it's dysfunctional, that you start seeing more barriers and you overlook opportunities that are bridges. So we want to make sure that we can discern between a barrier and a bridge. But if you can identify and detect how systemic influences are trying to squash you, you can strategize and go over and around or under the barrier so that you can achieve the success that you were created and destined to achieve. Because the bottom line is this: you were created for excellence, you were created to contribute, you have encoded in your DNA skills, abilities, and wisdom to help you soar. But if you mix mindset with understanding of the water that you swim in, those two combined will help give you a head start. And then if you are careful and careful and discerning about who you bring in your life to support you and to collaborate with you and to be an ally in alliance with you, then you will have the tools to build the houses, build the businesses, build the organizations, to build yourself in ways that you have never built yourself before. The truth is, you were made to bloom, you were made to build, you were never meant to beg. And when you know who you are and who you are not, that is when you position yourself to shine. So I hope you will join me for Unshackled. We're going to talk about this stuff. We're going to identify this stuff. We're going to call a thing, and then strategize so that the thing does not prevent us or stop us, but we have good skills, tools, and strategies to make sure we can soar higher above anything that tries to defeat us. So I hope you can join me again. We start next week for Unshackled Desires, Dreams, and Destiny, because it's your turn and your time to soar higher. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, I'm using StreamYard, so I don't see your comment, but blessings to you always. And I will put a link in to join me, and I hope you will consider Unshackled. desires, dreams, and destiny. Blessings again. God bless you. Have a good evening, and I see you next week. Bye.